All right, welcome to The Explainer. If you're an international student looking at doctoral programs, trying to secure funding can honestly feel like you're navigating a maze completely blindfolded. But today, we're going to explore exactly how Spain's PhD funding works. It's a highly lucrative, yet somewhat bureaucratic landscape, and we're going to demystify the whole thing. Let's look at the data and figure out exactly how this works. Okay, let's dive into this because this is where a massive paradigm shift happens. In countries like the US or the UK, doctoral candidates usually scrape by on a pretty meager student stipend. We're talking lots of ramen noodles. But what if your PhD actually paid you as a full-time employee with a pension? Well, that is exactly how Spain operates, and it completely changes your financial reality while you study. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to look at employees, not just students, the FPU and FPI government grants, private and European alternatives, direct institute funding like ICFO, public versus private universities, and finally, the application survival guide.
So, Section 1, employees, not just students.
Under Spain's employment contracts model, the funding you win isn't just some tax-free gift or a casual grant. Nope, it is a formal labor contract. Now, to even enroll, Spain requires you to have earned at least 300 ECTS credits combined across your bachelor's and master's degrees. But once you're in and you're funded, you receive a formal monthly salary and, crucially, you get legal worker protections. This, frankly, fundamentally shifts your financial reality. And this brilliantly illustrates why that model is so secure. Because you're paying into the Spanish social security system, you get the exact same labor perks as any other professional out there. We're talking mandatory pension contributions, paid sick leave, full healthcare access, and legally protected maternity and paternity rights. Plus, your salary actually increases year over year as you progress. It's a real game changer.
Moving on to Section 2, FPU and FPI government grants.
All right, so these are the big ones, the FPU and the FPI. And they cater to two totally different academic styles. The FPU, which is run by the Ministry of Universities, is candidate-led. Basically, you bring your own research idea, but you are required to do somewhere between 60 to 180 hours of university teaching. You also need a pretty high master's GPA for this one, a minimum of 7.5 out of 10. The FPI, on the other hand, comes from the Ministry of Science. This one is project-led, so you apply to join a supervisor's already funded project. There is absolutely zero teaching obligation, and you just focus purely on the research. But no matter which of those two paths you choose, the financial progression is identical, and it's highly structured. In year 1, you earn around 1,230 euros a month. Year 2 bumps up to 1,318 euros, and then in years 3 and 4, you're making 1,647 euros a month. Plus, and this is a huge plus, both of these government contracts cover your university tuition completely. They also include 2 bonus payments a year alongside funding for a 3-month international research stay. Next up, Section 3, private and European alternatives. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer size of this number, around 3,200 euros a month. That is the country-adjusted gross monthly salary for the Marie Squatters-Curie Actions, or MSCA, doctoral networks. It is literally the highest-paying PhD option we've seen, massively out-earning those standard government contracts. So let's take a look at how all these options actually stack up side by side. You've got your baseline FPU and FPI. Then there's the La Caixa Infinite Fellowship. This one is incredibly prestigious, offers a full salary, and has a dedicated incoming call for STEM students of all nationalities. We just saw the massive MSCA salary, but keep in mind its strict mobility rule. You literally cannot have lived in Spain for more than 12 of the 36 months right before your start date. And finally, if you happen to be university teaching staff from Latin America, the Foundation Carolina offers a co-funded allowance that you can often stack with teaching assistant contracts. All right, Section 4, direct institute funding, focusing on ICFO. A perfect case study for direct institutional funding is ICFO, the Institute of Photonic Sciences over in Barcelona. For their summer 2026 admissions, they're offering a limited number of fully funded institutional PhD fellowships. This means you don't have to wait around for the Ministry of Universities. You apply directly to ICFO, and if you get accepted into one of their research groups, they just fund you internally. And their financial package is, honestly, remarkably comprehensive. ICFO offers a gross salary of over 27,200 euros a year, and that's locked in for an extended 4.5-year period.
You get full access to the Spanish public healthcare system through Social Security, a dedicated budget managed by your group leader for travel and conferences, and they even offer a potential family allowance for researchers with dependents. It is basically a completely turnkey employment package.
Section 5, Public versus Private Universities. So the crucial point here is that Spain basically operates on a dual system of prestige. If your goal is pure science, academia, or say making a medical breakthrough, you're going to want the massive public giants. Places like the University of Barcelona, Complutense in Madrid, or the Polytechnic of Valencia absolutely dominate the Shanghai rankings for research volume. But if you're looking more at business, law, or elite corporate employability, private schools like the University of Navarra or IE University dominate the QS employer rankings. Simply put, the public sector owns the labs, while the private sector owns the corporate boardrooms.
And finally, Section 6, the Application Survival Guide.
Because here is the harsh truth, folks. Top grades alone are not going to secure you a Spanish PhD contract. The bureaucracy is intense, and the competition is completely global. So, how do funded applicants actually win? What are they doing differently?
Well, let's move along and see how this builds into a very strict timeline. You absolutely cannot apply at the last minute. 18 months prior, you need to be contacting a supervisor. 6 months prior, you must start your homologización. That's the official equivalency process for foreign degrees. Welcome to Spanish bureaucracy, because this step takes months. And if you miss it, you basically lose a full year. By January 2027, portals for major grants like the FPU will open and then close with 0 exceptions.
So, your exact playbook needs to look like this. Step 1, verify your degree equivalence. Step 2, secure a supervisor. You see, in Spain, a supervisor is basically your co-applicant. For things like FPI and FPU, you actually need their departmental commitment. The real insider tip here? Send a short email under 250 words mentioning just one of their recent papers and exactly how you can build on it. That alone separates you from like 90% of applicants. And step 3, apply to multiple programs simultaneously. The FPU, La Caixa, and MSCA are not mutually exclusive until you actually sit down and accept one. Finally, you really need to understand the nota de corte, which is the cutoff grade reality. Spanish universities use a 10-point scale, so if your home country uses a 4.0 scale or percentages, you must convert it officially. Now, the FPU requires a minimum 7.5 just to apply, but realistically, the competitive candidates, the ones actually signing these contracts, they sit above an 8.5, and they usually bring early research output like a conference poster or maybe a master's thesis chapter. You can't just be average here, you really must excel. All right, you now have the playbook. You know the grants, the timelines, and those incredible employment perks that make Spain one of the most secure places anywhere to do your doctoral research. So the only question left for you is, will you choose the pure scientific prestige of a public research giant or the fast-tracked corporate pipeline of a private institution for your Spanish PhD? It's time to start writing those emails and get your research career funded.